This is a timeline of events that stretched over the period of World War II. January 1940. 1 to 10,000 Japanese troops launched a counterattack in eastern Shanxi province in China in an attempt to relieve the nearly surrounded Japanese 36th Division. 2. The Soviet offensive in Finland is halted by several Finnish victories. Numerous Soviet tanks are destroyed. 7. Rationing of basic foodstuffs is established in the UK. A major Finnish victory at Suomussalmi is reported. One whole Soviet division is eliminated, and again numbers of military vehicles are captured. 7. General Semyon Timoshenko took command of Soviet army forces in Finland. 10. A German plane crashes in neutral Belgium. On board are the plans for Fall Gelb. These are discovered by the Allies, causing a crisis situation. 16. Captured documents reveal Hitler's plans for the invasion of Scandinavia and a postponement of the invasion of France and the Low Countries until the spring, when the weather is more compatible for an invasion. 17. The Soviets are driven back in Finland and retaliate with heavy air attacks. 20. German submarine U-44 torpedoes and sinks Greek steamer Egerton Tarkas Draculish off Portugal at 0415 hours, killing 6. U-44 had been hunting for Egerton Tarkas Draculish for the past 6 hours. 21. A U-boat sinks British destroyer HMS Exmouth and its crew of 135 are all lost. 24. Reinhard Heydrich is appointed by Göring for the solution to the Jewish question. 27. Germany makes final plans for the invasion of Denmark and Norway. February 1940. 1. The Japanese Diet announces a record-high budget with over half its expenditures being military. 5. Britain and France decide to intervene in Norway to cut off the iron ore trade in anticipation of an expected German occupation, and ostensibly to open a route to assist Finland. The operation is scheduled to start about March 20. 9. Erich von Manstein is placed in command of German 38th Armor Corps, removing him from planning the French invasion. 10. USSR agrees to supply grain and raw materials to Germany in a new trade treaty. 14. British government calls for volunteers to fight in Finland. 15. The Soviet army captures Suma, an important defense point in Finland, thereby breaking through the Mannerheim line. Hitler orders unrestricted submarine warfare. 16. British destroyer HMS Cossack forcibly removes 303 British POWs from the German transport Altmark in neutral Norwegian territorial waters, sparking the Altmark incident. 17. The Finns continue retreat from the Mannerheim line. Manstein presents to Hitler his plans for invading France via the Ardennes forest. 21. General Nikolaus von Falkenhorst is placed in command of the upcoming German invasion of Norway. March 1940. 1. Adolf Hitler directs his generals in planning the invasion of Denmark and Norway. 3. Soviets begin attacks on Viipuri, Finland's second-largest city. 5. Finland tells the Soviets they will agree to their terms for ending the war. The next day they send emissaries to Moscow to negotiate a peace treaty. 11. Meat rationing begins in Britain. 12. In Moscow, Finland signs a peace treaty with the Soviet Union after 105 days of conflict. The Finns are forced to give up significant territory in exchange for peace. 16. German air raid on Scapa Flow causes first British civilian casualties. 18. Hitler and Mussolini meet at the Brenner Pass on the Austrian border. Benito Mussolini agrees with Hitler that Italy will enter the war at an opportune moment. 21. Paul Reynaud becomes Prime Minister of France following Daladier's resignation the previous day. 28. Britain and France make a formal agreement that neither country will seek a separate peace with Germany. 29. The Soviets want new territories. Molotov speaks to the Supreme Soviet about an unsettled dispute, the question of Romanian Bessarabia. 30. Japan establishes a puppet regime at Nanking, China, under Wang Jingwei. 30. British undertakes secret reconnaissance flights to photograph the targeted areas inside the Soviet Union in preparation for Operation Pike, utilizing high-altitude, high-speed stereoscopic photography pioneered by Sidney Cotton. April 1940. April. 22,000 Polish officers, policemen, and others are massacred by the Soviet NKVD in the Katyn massacre. 3. The Ministerial Defense Committee, with the First Lord of the Admiralty as its chair, replaces Lord Chatfield's ministerial position of Minister for Coordination of Defense. 9. Germans land in several Norwegian ports and take Oslo. The Norwegian campaign lasts 2 months. The British begin their Norwegian campaign. Denmark surrenders. 10. Germans set up a Norwegian government under Vidkun Quisling, former Minister of Defense. 11. First Battle of Narvik. British destroyers and aircraft successfully make a surprise attack against a larger German naval force. A second attack on April 13 will also be a British success. 12. British troops occupy the Danish Faroe Islands. 14. British and French troops begin landing at Namsos, north of Trondheim in Norway. 15. British troops land at Harstad, near Narvik, Norway. 16. More British landings in Norway, notably north and south of Trondheim. The struggle for Trondheim continues until the 22nd. 27. British troops begin pull-out from central Norway, north and south of Trondheim. May 1940. 1. Allies begin evacuating Norwegian ports. The efforts will continue until June. 5. Norwegian government in exile established in London. 8. Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain barely survives Norway debate vote in the House of Commons. 9. Conscription in Britain extended to age 36. 10. Germany invades Belgium, France, Luxembourg and the Netherlands. Winston Churchill becomes Prime Minister of the United Kingdom upon the resignation of Neville Chamberlain. The United Kingdom invades Iceland. Belgium declares a state of emergency. Churchill is called on to form a wartime coalition government. The massive German offensive against the Western Front, the invasion of Luxembourg, Belgium, the Netherlands, and France begins. In a bold stroke, German paratroops capture the Belgian fort Ebenemel. 10. The battle for the Hague became the first failed paratrooper attack in history as the Dutch quickly defeat the invaders. 11. Luxembourg is occupied. Churchill offers the former Kaiser Wilhelm II, who is now living in the Netherlands, asylum in the United Kingdom. He declines. 12. The Belgians blow up all the bridges over the Meuse River to halt the German advance. 12. Battle of Hainaut begins in Belgium. 13. Dutch government in exile established in London. General Heinz Guderian's Panzer Corps breaks through at Sedan, France. Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands flees to asylum in the United Kingdom. Churchill's blood, toil, tears, and sweat speech in Commons. 13. The Dutch lose the Battle of the Grabenberg to the Germans. 14. The creation of the local defense volunteers is announced by the new Secretary of State for War Anthony Eden. It is mostly composed of the elderly and retired. Rotterdam is carpet-bombed by the Luftwaffe, causing many civilian deaths and tremendous damage. The Netherlands decide to surrender with the exception of Zeeland. Churchill asks President Roosevelt and Canada for aid in these dark days. Outlines of the new British coalition, which includes Labour, Liberal, and Conservative members, is made public. 14. The Dutch defeat the Germans at the Battle of the Afsluitdijk. 14. The Rotterdam Blitz successfully brings an end to the Battle of Rotterdam. 15. The capitulation of the Dutch army is signed. German forces cross over the Meuse River. 16. Churchill visits Paris and hears that the French war is as good as over. 16. The Belgian government leaves Belgium for Bordeaux in France, as the Belgian army retreats. It later moves to London. 17. Germans enter Brussels and also take Antwerp. Paul Reynaud forms new French government, including 84-year-old Marshal Pétain, the French hero of World War I. 18. Maxime Weygand replaces Maurice Gamelin as commander of the French armed forces. Antwerp captured. 18. Germans win the Battle of Zeeland. 19. Amiens in France is besieged by German troops. Rommel's forces surround Arras. Other German forces reach Noyelles on the Channel. 19. The British complete their invasion of Iceland. 20. General Guderian's panzer groups take Abbeville, threatening Allied forces in the area. 23. Oswald Mosley, leader of the pre-war British fascists, is jailed. He and his wife will spend the duration in prison. 24. The British make a final decision to cease operations in Norway. 25. The Allied forces, British and French alike, retreat to Dunkirk. Hitler orders a halt to the advance of Germans toward the Allied beachhead and allows Hermann Göring to use the Luftwaffe to attack. British RAF defends the beachhead. Sporadic Luftwaffe bombings in England. Boulogne-sur-Mer surrenders to the Germans. 25. Soviet Union is preparing a total takeover in the Baltic states, organizing and staging conflicts between the Baltic states and the USSR. Soviet government accuses Lithuania of kidnapping Soviet soldiers. 25 to 28. 86 Belgian civilians are murdered by German forces in the village of Vinkt. 26. The patrol vessel A4 arrives in Plymouth, evacuating the final 40 tons of national gold reserves out of Belgium. 26. Calais surrenders to the Germans. Operation Dynamo, the Allied evacuation of 340,000 troops from Dunkirk, begins. The move will last until June 3 under ferocious bombardment by the Luftwaffe. 28. Belgium surrenders to the Germans. King Leopold III of Belgium surrenders and is interned. 30. Crucial British cabinet meeting. Churchill wins a vote on continuing the war, in spite of vigorous arguments by Lord Halifax and Chamberlain. 31. The Japanese heavily bomb nationalist capital Chungking, on the Upper Yangtze, June 1940. 3. Last day of Operation Dynamo. 224,686 British and 121,445 French and Belgian troops have been evacuated. Germans bomb Paris. 7. German battleships Gneisenau and Scharnhorst sink the aircraft carrier HMS Glorious and 2 destroyers off Norway. The British ships have had no air cover. 9. Red Army provokes conflicts in the Latvian border. 10. Italy declares war on France and the United Kingdom. Norway surrenders. King Haakon and his government had evacuated to Britain 3 days previously. 11. French government decamps to Tours. 12. More than 10,000 British soldiers of the 51st Division are captured at Saint-Valery-en-Corps. 13. Paris occupied by German troops. French government moves again, this time to Bordeaux. 14. Elements of the French Navy based in Toulon carried out offensive operations against Italian targets along the Ligurian coast. A total military blockade on the Baltic states by the Soviet Baltic Fleet. Soviet troops along the Baltic borders are ready to organize communist coups in the Baltic states. Soviet bombers shoot down a Finnish passenger airplane K-Lever flying from Tallinn to Helsinki and carrying 3 diplomatic pouches from the U.S. legations in Tallinn, Riga and Helsinki. 15. 8-hour ultimatum to surrender is given to Lithuania by the Soviets. President Smetona escapes from the country, so the takeover is not possible to do in a formally legal way. Soviet troops enter Lithuania and attack Latvian border guards. Start of the evacuation of British troops from ports west and in France in Operation Ariel. 16. Philippe Pétain becomes Premier of France upon the resignation of Reynaud's government. The French sloop La Curieuse forced the Italian submarine Provano to surface and then sank it by ramming. Soviet Union gives 8-hour ultimatum to Latvia and Estonia to surrender. 17. Sinking of liner RMS Lancastria off St. Nazaire while being used as a British troopship. At least 3,000 are killed in Britain's worst maritime disaster. Soviet troops enter Latvia and Estonia. 18. General de Gaulle forms the Comité Français de la Libération Nationale, a French government in exile. Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania are occupied by the Soviet Union. 20. The French seek an armistice with the Italians. 21. Franco-German armistice negotiations begin at Compiègne. Elements of two Italian armies cross into France during Italian invasion of France. 21. The French battleship Lorraine opened fire on the Italian port of Badia in Italian North Africa. During some of the last actions of the French against the Italians, French naval aircraft attacked Taranto and Livorno in mainland Italy. 21. Soviet-led coups in the Baltic states. In the only military resistance in Tallinn, 2 die on Estonian side and about 10 on the Soviet side. 22. Franco-German armistice signed. 24. Franco-Italian armistice signed. 25. France officially surrenders to Germany at 1:35. Last major evacuation of Operation Ariel, 191,870 Allied soldiers, airmen and some civilians had escaped from France. 26. The Soviet Union send an ultimatum demanding Bessarabia and northern Bukovina from Romania. 27. Romanians propose negotiations. Molotov replies that the demands are land concessions or war. New ultimatum from the Soviets to the Romanians. 28. General de Gaulle, recognized by British as leader of Free French. Marshal Italo Balbo, commander-in-chief of Italian North Africa, is accidentally killed in a friendly fire incident by Italian anti-aircraft fire at Tobruk, Libya. 28. The Red Army occupies Romanian Bessarabia and the northern part of Bukovina. 28. The Luftwaffe bombs the demilitarized British Channel Islands. They had not been informed of the demilitarization. In Guernsey, 33 are killed and 67 injured. In Jersey, 9 are killed and many are injured. 28. Axis and Allied convoys clash southwest of Crete. 30. Germany invades the Channel Islands. July 1940. 1. Channel Islands occupation is completed by German forces. French government moves to Vichy. Marshal Rodolfo Graziani is named as Balbo's replacement in North Africa. The Italian Royal Air Force starts bombing the British Mandate of Palestine. 2. Hitler orders preparation of plans for invasion of Britain, codenamed Operation Sea Lion. 2. Alderney surrenders to the Germans. 2. Brighton Beach is closed to the public and mines, barbed wire and other defences are put into place. 3. Cardiff is bombed by the Luftwaffe for the first time. 3. The British attack and destroy the French Navy, fearing that it would fall into German hands. 4. The destruction of the French fleet at Mers el-Kayakut Bir, Algeria by the Royal Navy. Vichy French government breaks off diplomatic relations with Britain in protest. At Alexandria, the French agree to demilitarize the battleship Lorraine and several smaller ships. The Duke of Windsor is named governor of the Bahamas, putting him some distance from controversy. 4. Sark surrenders to the Germans. The Germans now control all of the British Channel Islands. 4. The German News Bureau released excerpts of the documents captured during the fall of France relating to Operation Pike, an Anglo-French plan to bomb Soviet oil fields. The compromised operation was subsequently aborted. 5. Two Belgian politicians, Camille Huysmans and Marcel Henry Jasper, form an unofficial government in exile in London, afraid that the official Belgian government, still in France, will surrender to the Germans. 9. A fairly indecisive naval skirmish happens off the coast of Italy. No lives are lost. 10. The Battle of Britain begins with Luftwaffe raids on Channel shipping. President Roosevelt asks Congress for huge increases in military preparations. 11. RAF raids on enemy emplacements in the Netherlands and on German munitions factories. 12. Luftwaffe attacks on Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. 14. Soviets organize rigged elections in the Baltic states. The parliaments will be in the control of the Soviets. 16. Adolf Hitler submits to his military the directive for the invasion of the United Kingdom, Operation Sea Lion. 18. In response to Mers el-Kayakut Bir, the Vichy French Air Force bombs British-held Gibraltar. 19. General Johann Laidoner of Estonia is deported to Siberia. 19. Allied ships clash with two Italian light cruisers, sinking one in the Battle of Cape Spada. 21. Czechoslovak government in exile arrives in London. In the Baltic states, Soviet-controlled parliaments request membership of USSR. 22. The Havana Conference meets. The nations of the Western Hemisphere meet to discuss neutrality and economic cooperation. Fumimaro Konoye is named the Prime Minister of Japan. 23. The British Home Guard is officially established, drawing on elderly men and those considered unable to serve in the regular armed forces. 25. All women and children are ordered to evacuate Gibraltar. 26. The United States of America activates the General Headquarters, United States Army, which is designed to facilitate mobilization by supervising the organization and training of the Army field forces within the continental United States, which is codenamed the Zone of the Interior. 30. The President of Estonia, Konstantin Pats, is arrested and deported to Russia by the Soviets.